Hey guys, hope everyone's doing all right. Been sitting here enjoying the thunderstorms. About ready to watch a movie. I was coming on because I was having a discussion with a friend today, and this cool concept of a couple of cool concepts came up. But the one that struck me enough to the point where I wrote it down was the difference of my way versus the way, and how misconstrued that's kind of getting nowadays. And I thought it was worth sharing about, how seems to be a big thing nowadays, to where people are confusing the way I do things with the right way to do things is. We forget that we get conditioned in the culture that we grow up in, the family we grow up in, the life experiences we have, all the things we have that lead us to think that this is the right way because this is the way it's supposed to be, is based off transient situations. If you drop that same person in a different spot, they're gonna have different supposed to be's, different ways in which things are supposed to be done. So it's really tough to actually say what the right way, right thing to do is. It's one thing to say, hey, this is how I've done something, this works for me, versus this is the way it's supposed to be done. And I'm always cautious when I start to hear people, groups, whatever, start saying this is the way. It scares me, because it automatically starts to imply that there's walls up from other ways of doing things. And the cool part about humans in existence is that, like me as a human, I'm neither insignificant nor unique or special, but at the same time, I am beautifully unique, because I'm one sliver of a bigger picture. I'm one slice, one perspective of a much bigger network of perspectives, of views, of experiences that make up the entire universe of existence. Some people would even say I'm a sliver of the totality of the God consciousness. That all these different slivers added up together make up God consciousness, make up universal consciousness, make up the totality of everything. And I'm a big fan of that kind of train of thought. Because if you think about it, it's like, all right, people that are very narrow-minded, very egotistical, very narcissistic, they're only able to see things through one perspective. Their world is very small and things are very narrow. Well, as people start to get someone else's perspective, you take that same person, but then if they interact with somebody and start to see things slightly different, well, then all of a sudden now they're seeing the world through two perspectives. And then if a third person comes along, or a third situation gets them to see things through a third perspective, well, now you're starting to really disperse and starting to see how, man, the way I've done things, my one way of doing things isn't the only way to do it. This is why it's important for people to get out in the world, to go to new towns, new cities, to branch out, to not saying to leave families, but to interact with cultures and people and experiences outside of their own, to see how the way I think things aren't the only way. That there's a 7.8 billion ways things can be done, and more. And that's one of the beautiful little symphonies of humanity, is that all of our unique experiences add up to the big picture. And I think that's beautiful. So as we're talking, I couldn't help but think of this story that I had heard. And so it's these monks that are. There's a discussion about God, And so the story, I'm probably going to butcher it a little bit, but whatever, I'll give it my best shot. The story is that these monks all were blindfolded, and they're each told to go and feel this elephant and then describe what they say to see what an elephant is to them. So first monk goes up, he's blindfolded, he's feeling. He's like, oh man, it's big, it's round, it's like a tree trunk, he's feeling the leg. It's okay. So then the next monk comes up. He's like, oh man, it's very long and flowy and very curvy. An elephant is like a snake. And okay. And the third one goes up. He's like, man, an elephant is very fan-like. It's like a palm frond. It's very thin, very wavy and floppy. He was at the elephant's ears. And the last monk, he said, man, an elephant is like a big wall. It's just big, flat wall all around. And so then after the last one, the monks come together and they're discussing what an elephant is. And so the guy at the leg is describing how it's a tree. Meanwhile, the guy at the trunk is saying, no, it's not a tree. It's like a snake. And the other guy at the ear is saying, no, it's big and floppy and fan-like. And the guy is like, you guys are out of your mind. He's like, no, it's a big wall. And they continue to bicker about this on and on and on. Hopefully you can get the pattern. And honestly, I don't even really know how the story ends, but for me, that in itself just kind of leads to how they failed to understand that what they were looking at was pieces of a much larger whole. They were each paying attention to very particular parts, which is fine, but to assume that that's the whole picture based off the piece that you have, is very narrow-minded. It's a level of delusion versus being able to see that, hey, wait a minute, to me, I have this piece over here, but if they're saying this, how does that tie in together? Getting to see that perspective is like, okay, so it's a tree and it's a snake. Okay, all right, I get this. Oh, and there's a fan involved too? Oh, it's a big, okay. I mean, that is big, it's wall. All right, it's a big old wall. Okay, so we got this big, so an elephant is a big old tree trunk, snake-like fan wall. You get a much better perspective of what an elephant is. If I were to just tell you that, hey, an elephant is like a tree, you'd be like, what? No. And each one of those descriptions, if I would have said, hey, an elephant is this, anyone that knows an elephant would be like, no, that's part of it, but that's not all of it. Versus if I said, hey, an elephant has the legs of a tree trunk, it has the snout of a snake, it has the ears of a palm frond, and it's got the girth of a wall. You'd be like, yeah, sounds like an elephant. It makes sense because you've had enough pieces of the puzzle to paint a great picture. And so for me, that's powerful because to me, that's existence. That's spirituality. That's just understanding how each of us have a little piece, and the more perspectives we can incorporate and understand and appreciate the different perspective instead of no. Elephant's not like a snake. You're wrong. That's dumb. See how that kind of creates some animosity, because that's their experience. Their experience very much tells them, man, I felt this thing. I know that this thing is true. This elephant is like a tree, and for you that's true, but for somebody that hasn't touched a leg like that, if they're at this, then that's what works for them. But it's the understanding that all these pieces add up together to make a big whole. That you really get the better picture, whether it be little things like that or just the entire existence of everything. We are all one intricate network that makes up the giant picture of creation. And To me, that is God consciousness. That is the understanding that the sum of all our experiences is that connected thing that people try to put various labels on and whatnot. These are all discussions for further times. I'm not going to dig deep into them, but there is a large part of people that it's tough for them to grasp that the totality of everything is the connection. So they do want to put very specific connection points. We'll say that. I'll unpack that at a later date. But yeah, so just knowing the difference between my way and the way is one of those extremely powerful things where it's kind of like, this is the way it's done. Well, is it, or just the way you've done it? It really helps kind of like take us out of ourself and realize that, hey, that's right. There's other people doing this thing and doing it differently and doing it okay. So maybe I can learn something and get a view of the bigger picture. Think about it, if you were in the jungle on a safari and all you got to do is see an elephant's leg. You come back home, people are like, did you see the trunk? Did you see how they get to like use water with it? The big wall? Like, what? No, I saw a leg. It just stood there. It was a leg. That's what I saw. It'd be kind of sad. You kind of be like, man, I missed out on something because I wasn't willing to listen to other people. So I thought that was cool. I don't know. All right.